Welcome in, folks. Welcome to Just Another Black Conservative. And we're here with another story that we are being invaded. Yes, we are being invaded. We are being invaded by this woman, Helen Weberly, and Gender P. That's right, genderp.com, which is an online pharmacy with the specific purpose of giving gender affirming care to adolescents and adults. What do they do? Basically, what they do, it's an online pharmacy. You connect to it, and I'm imagining, because I don't know, and I'm not going to go through the process because I don't want to know, is you do a consultation over webcam, and then it's determined that you are legit, I guess. You legitimately feel like you want to be in the other body, and they will proceed with giving you the medication you need to do this. Either puberty blockers or cross-gender hormones. Basically, if you're a boy, you get estrogen. If you're a girl, you get testosterone. That is the plan. And this is happening now and has been allowed to happen in the United States. Here are the states in stage 1 that are going to be allowing this to happen. We got California. We got New York, Colorado, Illinois, Washington, Arizona, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Minnesota. This is the stage 1. These are the states right now that this can happen. Right now, right today, you could do this. In stage 2, we will have Virginia, Louisiana, Oregon, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Kentucky, South Carolina, Alabama, Maryland, Connecticut, Nevada, Arkansas, Michigan, and Kansas. I'm not quite sure what had to happen for these states to allow this to go on. Maybe more research will have to be done to figure out why they're allowing this website to operate within those states. But I guess it's a way to get gender affirming care affordable, because I believe it's $29.99 a month. I do not know if that includes the cost of the medication. I'm going to assume it doesn't. I think that that gives you the consultation and you get the prescription to go get the medication, supposedly from your local pharmacy. I'm going to let you see the ad of this. Helen Weberly telling you about how this has come about, or coming to the U.S. or in the U.S. right now. And then we're going to go from there.
Gender GP has arrived right here in America. Today I'm in Washington, D.C. to start letting American trans and non-binary people know that gender affirming care is now more affordable than ever. You get access to your essential prescriptions from American physicians, you can pick up your meds in your local pharmacy, and you can get digital therapeutic support included, all for $29.99 a month. If you need a way forward, we are right here and we're ready to help you on this journey. Truth in life is everything you think it will be.
So there you go. She's in Washington, D.C., shooting this ad for this website. So apparently she must have been lobbying for this site to go live, and it has gotten through. And we will see how this goes. Now let's watch the video of what she says is required for her to allow. Well, she particularly is not prescribing the medication. I guess the doctors in the U.S. are going to be doing this, but let's see what her particular criteria is. And I don't know if this is the same criteria for the doctors in the U.S., but if they're following along the lines of this lady and her company, then they probably will be following closely to what she says. So let's watch this.
Many people ask how they prove to me that they are transgender, but know this for sure, you have nothing to prove to me. I am here to help you and to make your life happy and safe. You can wear a dress or trousers, you can wear a skirt or jumper, a shell suit or a swimsuit, whatever you like. Your clothes don't make you what you are, it is how you feel inside. Some people ask me how I can prove that somebody isn't lying to me to get hormones to change their bodies, and I suppose I wonder why anybody would ever want to lie to get them. Imagine your most male friend or relative and ask yourself how he would feel if you told him that he would get comfort wearing female clothes and taking hormones to grow breasts and hips. Or imagine your most female friend taking testosterone to become more hairy and binding her chest to flatten her breasts. Anybody that is not transgender just wouldn't want to do this, but all those who are transgender, to some degree, do feel that these things would be right for them, and many get extreme comfort from it.
All right, there you have it. That's the criteria. She says you just come in and tell me you have a feeling, and that's enough to get these drugs. Okay, so furthermore, there was a debate between Helen and another Helen in the UK on a UK channel. I'm going to show you part of that debate, not all of the debate, but in this video down below in the description, I will have a link to the full debate that you can watch yourself. But for my purposes, we're going to take a look at this clip and see how you feel about it.
Are listening to the Times Radio Gender debate with two Helens, Helen Joyce and Helen Webberley. I said we'd talk about cross-sex hormones, and we'll describe, or hopefully two Helens will describe exactly what they are. But the vast majority of people who are prescribed puberty blockers go on to take cross-sex hormones, and that is the hormone that will bring on the sexual characteristics of their chosen gender. And Helen Webberley, I'm right in saying that that is irreversible once you are on cross-sex hormones.
The gender-affirming hormones is the word that we use, but the day you start gender-affirming hormones doesn't mean that it's automatically irreversible from that minute onwards, because what gender-affirming hormones does in someone who is taking puberty blockers is it starts a second puberty, and that second puberty takes as long as the first puberty to fully develop, and along that trajectory then the irreversible changes will occur, which is what the patient wants.
But along that they're irreversible by the time you've been through a programme of it. Okay, yeah. And again, what age could they be prescribed at?
Well, that varies really, because puberty blockers are easy. They're the best time they're given is when puberty starts, because you want to block puberty. For gender-affirming hormones, because it is a second stage of treatment, it varies. And
so basically what they want to do is block the puberty. So if you're a boy, they want to stop your testosterone production or knock it down to nearly nothing, and then give you estrogen to try to have a female puberty.
it should be guided by individual choice.
Right. How do you regard them, Helen Joyce?
I mean, in this country we've now banned puberty blockers, and rightly, because there's no evidence base for their use. They don't improve mental health, and there are increasing worries that they're very harmful, and we say that we don't give cross-sex hormones on the NHS until 16 and preferably 18.
Right, so if they're banned, puberty blockers at the moment, then...
Well, Helen Joyce says again, she's not a medic, so it's very difficult to do
fine,
this.
And you've made that point
Thank
on many
you.
occasions.
So she tries to discount this lady's assessment because she's not a medic.
But if they are blocked, what do you say to your patients? They can't get them now.
Sorry, so puberty blockers, there's a government ban on puberty blockers
Yes.
only in transgender children and only until the age of, I forget now whether it's 16 or 18.
And you welcome that?
No, I don't. It's tragic, absolutely tragic.
Right. Helen Joyce.
I mean, the evidence showed that they didn't do any of the things they were promised to do. Obviously, they block puberty, but they don't make the children function better mentally, and they're harmful.
Right. You obviously don't support that ban. Do you prescribe cross-sex hormones instead to young people?
The options for young people who can't have puberty blockers, the ones that are banned, which are the GnRH
Yes.
analogues, is that they can take other medicines to suppress their natural hormone production or the effects of their natural hormone.
So are you prescribing
I don't
cross-sex
prescribe
hormones?
any. I don't prescribe any, but that's up because I don't practice as a doctor at the moment. I don't prescribe, but doctors in this country will use other medicines to suppress puberty or the effects of puberty.
Are your colleagues and partners at Gender GP prescribing cross-sex hormones?
Cross-sex hormones, yeah.
Right, even though puberty blockers are banned, and you would normally start on those and go on to cross-sex hormones.
Well, I don't know if you understood my answer, but there are different ways. So basically, the two necessary interventions for a transgender child or adolescent are to suppress the effects of or production of the natural hormone and replace it with the opposite hormone, if we like. And there are many different ways to do that, and many different schedules to do that.
Right, but without
So if puberty blockers are allowed wherever you're doing this treatment, then you need to come up with a secondary way of suppressing the natural puberty that wants to that a child that is born a female or born a male wants to go through. So you basically need to stunt that and then go into the other to try to make the boy or the girl look or become the opposite sex.
puberty blockers being prescribed because they're banned, are colleagues of yours at Gender GP prescribing cross-sex hormones to under 16-year-olds?
Well, not because of.
But
No,
are
it's
they?
not.
All right, well,
Yes,
just
yes. The doctors in this country and in Europe are prescribing
to under
gender-affirming
16-year-olds.
hormones to under 16-year-olds.
How
yes.
young?
Well, I don't know how young. I don't know. But whenever it's medically indicated to do that, this isn't about age. Everyone uses the age thing as the alarmist thing. Oh my goodness, that's too young.
Okay, this is in the United States right now. She said under the age of 16, under the age of 15. I think when you listen, if you go back and watch this entire debate, she goes back almost to 2 years old. She says 2, 4 or 5, that children know at 4 or 5 that they don't feel right in their body. 4 and 5. Let that sink in for a minute. You want to give a 4 or 5-year-old puberty blockers, and then you want to give them cross-sex hormones. Okay, so basically you want to experiment on a 4 or 5-year-old to change them to the opposite sex.
But don't forget that puberty progresses, and if we don't intervene, what you end up with is life-altering, irreversible effects of the other hormone. So it's like the same life-changing, irreversible effects of the hormone that we prescribe. If you don't do it, you end up with the life-altering, irreversible effects of the hormone from the natural body.
I mean, I don't know how many times I can say that people are either male or female and sex can't change. So if you give a male person female hormones, that doesn't mean that they go through female puberty. A male person can't go through female puberty. So the pathway that Helen Weberly is describing is a pathway that leads to adult sterility. Your own sex organs will not develop.
Was that answering your question? Because we seem to have gone back to the fact that gender identity doesn't exist, and now we're straight back on
I brought in
sterility.
the word sterility here. So this
But
is a
are you saying
pathway
there
that
are
brings
no side effects, and that none of the patients that you have treated have ever suffered the sorts of side effects that Helen Joyce has just outlined?
I mean, I don't know how balanced this is becoming, but the side effects of gender-affirming hormones are the effects.
Did you see how she readjusts herself in her chair because she was starting to feel like she was being ganged up on? So she had to adjust herself to go ahead and express more of her ideology.
That person wants. So, for example, somebody who is given, and Helen calls it you can't have a female puberty. Let's call it an estrogen puberty.
Right.
And the effects of the estrogen puberty are the effects that the person wants.
Well, you say that that's what they want. Kira Bell was
we're going to go
an
on
example.
Again, we're going to go on to a case of one, which is really difficult.
These are a lot of cases, though, aren't they? I mean, I've pulled out a few
Could we talk
because
about the
they were things.
262,000 people in this country, or do we just want to talk about one
That
Kira
sounds
Bell?
like,
And
but
that's
that
really
sounds like you're
difficult, isn't
dismissing.
it?
But Kira Bell went to court. The puberty blockers that I received at 16 were designed to stop my sexual maturation. The idea was that this would give me a pause to think about whether I wanted to continue to a further gender transition. This so-called pause put me into what felt like menopause, with hot flushes, night sweats and brain fog. All this made it more difficult to think clearly about what I should do. By the end of a year of this treatment, when I was presented with the option of moving on to testosterone, I jumped at it. I wanted to feel like a young man, not an old woman. I was eager for the shots to start and the changes this would bring. But it's very clear that they weren't thinking clearly. Does it give you pause for thought, Helen Webberley?
Well, you see, Kira Bell went through the Tavistock. The Tavistock didn't, and what the Tavistock said was, regardless of your age, you must have puberty blockers for a year before gender-affirming hormones.
And that was wrong.
And that's what Kira Bell had. So Kira Bell did have an estrogen menopause, and then had to endure that for a year, and then had testosterone. But that's not what. If you have a look at the Endocrine Society guidelines and WPATH standards of care, that's not the clinical guidance that they would have done.
Did it give you pause for thought,
and
though, that case?
And that is what was criticised by the Cass Review and the Clare Care Quality Commission, because they weren't following standards.
Does that reassure you?
I mean, if I can give a big number, 96% of female people who take testosterone for gender-affirming care will get pelvic floor dysfunction. I'd very much like to know if that is what is said to them, because it's very bad for female sex organs.
Where does that stat come from? Can we have that clearly?
That comes from a paper by a physiotherapist who has looked into it, because she treats a lot of them. I can provide you with the source afterwards, since clearly you need.
Now, I don't know the source of this that she's talking about, where 96% of female persons who go through testosterone therapy have pelvic floor syndrome. But logically thinking about this, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense that if you take a adolescent, let's pick an age, let's say 10, and you start giving them a puberty blocker, basically to suppress we're going to do a girl, to suppress her estrogen levels. So basically, you're suppressing her body's natural progression in life. Now, once you've done that, now you want to introduce testosterone. So testosterone is going to affect the female body differently than estrogen was. So in a female body, you have ovaries, you have your uterus, you have your fallopian tubes, right? These are part of a female, a person born female. These are the organs that are going to grow as her body progresses through puberty. If you suppress that and then you give the opposite hormone, wouldn't it just be logical to think about that those organs would not progress into the development that they would during a normal growth period, right? It just logically thinking about that.
Need to know it, but obviously it is not good for female sex organs to have testosterone.
But I don't. But again,
do you talk to your patients about that? That sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Of course, we discuss all of those things.
Right.
But pelvic floor dysfunction.
To a 12-year-old, would they know necessarily what that means and what effect that might have later in life?
Well, you're back to the gender-affirming care in 12-year-olds. So the 12-year-old is on puberty blockers. I've never heard this statistic that's come forward. How many patients were in this study? Do you know?
I asked a friend who did the study, so I'd have to come back to you.
Okay.
Elaine Miller, she's an extremely well-known physiologist.
You might find a study that's got 8 people. I don't know. I've not seen this study, and you might say, "Oh goodness, 94%." So maybe 7 of them had pelvic floor dysfunction. But what you have to understand is that if medics go on proper research and guidance and standards that are peer reviewed, not one single paper that you can find which may have a very tiny number of cases that shows what the other side wants to see.
I know. Yes, go on.
The Cass Review is the systematic review here, and it just doesn't show that this pathway is a has evidence behind it.
Can I bring up another case? I know you think I'm picking cases, but I'm trying to give a sense of cases that have come to light, that have gone through the courts. Can I just do it, and then you can say
to the rest of the population when you use one case,
or is it highlighting it? I mean, you're a champion of this, and you've been able to defend yourself. Let me give you this case. Let's look at the case that was examined in the family court in the UK. Gender GP prescribed testosterone to a child known as Jay, who had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and had a history of anorexia. In fact, had spent 9 months in hospital under the Mental Health Act because of malnutrition. Jay came to you aged 14.
Which case
and
was this,
with
please?
3, it just comes under J.
Which court was this and which country was this? Because that's
in
not
family
in the UK.
court. Family court in the UK. It was the family division here. I'll just finish. Jay came to you age 14 and within 3 months was prescribed testosterone. And I suppose the question is, did you order any blood tests or bone x-rays before prescribing gender-affirming hormones to Jay?
I don't know this case, and it's not my my patient. I don't know the ins and outs of this case.
Would you have done if someone had come presented to you with those issues, those conditions, autism spectrum disorder and a history of anorexia? Would you have ordered blood tests or bone x-rays before?
I'm interested. What do you think the blood tests would have shown with the autism and anorexia and gender dysphoria? Because they don't show up on a blood test and they don't show up on a brain scan. And this again is when we've got people.
Well, an independent expert looked at Jay's medical notes and said that Jay was at an independent expert was at risk of sudden death.
Yeah, but if we're going to do
sounds
this,
like you are trying to split hairs, Helen Webley, instead of saying yes, we would have done all the due diligence that was necessary.
The due diligence is dictated by WPATH and Endocrine Society. You can talk about splitting hairs with one patient who might have had autism and anorexia, but by using that one case to dictate or let all of your listeners decide whether gender-affirming care and gender incongruence gender-affirming care is the right thing to do and gender incongruence exists, it's really unhelpful to use one case when there are hundreds and millions of transgender people across the world.
The family court says that child was put on testosterone at such a high level that they were at risk of sudden death.
Can I just wrap this up, because we haven't got much time left, by asking a question to both of you, but starting with you, Helen Joyce. If we go back to the beginning and we look at the interpretation from the Supreme Court ruling, you used the word we've won, or we've won that case. Do you think it is time to be generous to the transgender community, to be a bit more benevolent, perhaps, to the sort of work that Helen Webley is doing, or not?
I think the work that Helen Webley is doing is absolutely malevolent. I think she's doing enormous harm to children. I
take a line at disagreeing with that on there.
I think that the kindest thing to do to people who identify as trans is absolutely not to give them evidence-free, harmful medicine, and I think that's what she's doing. And this type of care is not going to last. It is going to be looked back on with horror.
Do you agree with that? Do you think it will be looked back in horror?
I think absolutely not. I think this present time in history is going to look back in horror when there are thousands and thousands of transgender people not accepted, hurting, being harmed by these kind of views.
Thank you to both of you.
Okay, I'd like to say thank you guys for hanging out and going through this with me, watching this. I would just want to say this, that parents out there, I want you to be aware of what's out there. And this particular website, genderp.com, you need to be aware of this. And you need to be aware of what your children are doing. I know there's some parents that buy off on this and think that this should be done, or this type of medication should be given to their child. And I'm not here to tell you not to do that, but I am here to tell you that there is just not enough research on this and how it's going to harm children, or if it's not going to harm children in the future. We just don't know. There's not enough long-term research done on this. So, especially giving a child under the age of 15 puberty blockers and then cross-gender hormones. There's just not enough research. So basically, we're treating our children, as guinea pigs when we do this. I myself would advise not to. I advise that if your child is feeling this way, that they should be open enough to come talk to you, and you should be open enough to talk to them and provide guidance. This is what parents are supposed to do. Parents are supposed to provide guidance to their children. Do not allow others to provide this guidance to your child. This includes TikTok. This includes Instagram. This includes YouTube. This includes Rumble. You, as a parent, need to be involved with what your child is consuming, and you need to be able, the child needs to be able to talk to you, and you need to be able to talk to your child frankly about these situations. And they need to know, and you need to know, everything that could happen when you provide your kids with this type of care. I don't know if you can change your sex. According to science that we are aware of right now, you cannot change your sex. It is not possible. Human beings have two paths of development. You either have a large gamete or you either have a small gamete. There is no other path in the human being. Can we change that through medication? I don't know. Nobody knows. Right now it's experimentation. It's experimentation, and your kid, I'm going to say kids because I don't care what adults do. I'm going to say children. Your child is a guinea pig. Your child is a lab rat. They are giving them medication that they have no idea the long-term effects of. Believe you me. To me, that is not right. And then we have this website by this woman, Helen Weberly, genderp.com, which is now going to allow someone to log on to a website and say they feel like they should have this medication and they are going to get it. Not to say that they can't get it now by walking into a clinic or into a hospital, but this is going to make it even easier for them to do. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching this. And please like and subscribe to my channel. Comment. Let me know what you feel about this, and let me know what else you want me to cover. I will see you on the next video.